Hey guys, I'm Becky and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought we could kind of go over the job outlook for the United States market, just kind of gain some understanding of what some of the highest paying jobs are and where we're potentially going to see the most growth and increase in jobs in the next 10 years. So I figured we would start with the high note, which would be the highest paying jobs, the highest paying career fields that you could find in the United States. So this is all based on data from 2019 that was gathered and researched and put together by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is actually a Department of Labor. So this is where all this data is coming from. They're a very good resource. I recommend taking a look at what they've got on there if you have any other interest in looking at this further. So looking at this chart, it's really easy to see that healthcare, that field of healthcare, is the highest paying on average that we're seeing. But they're easily followed up by experienced managers of money, so in finance and ideas, creating inventions, designing new designs, engineering this, engineering that, and knowing how to work with data and information and use that in a positive outlook. So being really experienced in those areas also pays very well. But if you're looking at like what you want to do with your life or what step you're going to take and change in the future, looking at that income level isn't everything that you're going to want to need. So you're going to want to take a well-rounded approach when you're looking at planning your career or your next steps or even just your life in general. Since February 2020, millions of people have been laid off and have lost their jobs altogether. Most of that is related to COVID. Some of that just happens as the job structure changes and the market changes and people leave and retire and enter the market. It's always fluctuating on that. But a large portion of that is related to the COVID-19 and the economic destruction that is brought towards not just the United States economy, but the global economy overall. So we want to make sure that we're remembering that even though COVID-19 had a huge impact, there's also moving pieces behind the scene that are going to fluctuate and change the job market outlook for the future. So some of those things we know about, some of those things people are still designing and coming up with, and who knows what it'll actually look like. But a lot of this is going to be based on the end of the baby boomer generation working. So they're all exiting the workforce. They're between like 57 and like 75 is the age group for that. So a lot of them are retiring or are getting ready to retire and are exiting the workforce and going into those end of life years. So we're going to see a lot of changes coming from that, and with the new growth of automation and the future of moving towards that and what that holds for businesses. A 2019 report from McKinsey Global Institute focused on the future of work in America, specifically in regards to automation. So based on the research, they determined that less than 5% of current jobs will be completely automated. So that's only 5%. So 95% of jobs are going to have some lasting impact of staying permanent. McKinsey also found that 60% of current jobs in the market have a possibility of at least a third, so 33% of their current job being transitioned into an automation system. Meaning that the current job would not be eliminated completely, but it would significantly change the structure and how that job would operate in the future, ultimately changing the job a tiny bit. But this research and this data doesn't tell the full story either. Not all industries are going to be impacted on the same levels, and not all organizations and businesses and corporations will be able to or will even have the ability to move as fast or want to move towards automation. So McKinsey estimates that between 0 and 30% of the hours worked globally could be automated by 2030. So that's a big estimate, between 0 and 30. So 30% of the hours worked. So maybe 3 hours a week could be automated by 2030. They did point out that the jobs that are at highest risk of automation are those that are predictable. They're structured activities like an assembly line or preparing standard documents that are following an organized proceeding. So a lot of back office jobs, data entry, basic accounting, simple legal forms like standard legal documents, all of those are a huge target for future automation because you're going to take out a lot of workforce that you don't need to do those. the more interactive a job is, the more you're interacting with people on an expert level, providing some type of expertise, whether that is you're the best electrician that there ever is, or maybe you know everything that there is about labor laws, something on those regards. Those jobs kind of like that are going to be really hard to automate because you can't have that human piece, that human productivity level inside that automation. So humans will always have that ability to have that compassion and that people problem solving interactive ability that a piece of automation machinery cannot do. So if you learn to manage people, or you have a high level expertise in a job, or your job is constantly just switching around and going all over the place, your job is not a high risk for automation because it would be complicated to set that up and make that happen. The Bureau of Labor Statistics with the Department of Labor anticipates that 6 million new jobs will be created in the next 10 years. Part of that is because of the aging baby boomer population. They're going to be leaving the workforce, they're going to be retiring, they're going to need health care and home health and all of that, and that's going to be across the country. So it's estimated that 35 million new jobs could be needed by 2030 just to provide the care needed for this older generation. Most of that is going to be healthcare related. We can already kind of see the shift starting to happen, but if we look at the data that the BLS provided on home health care aides, over 1 million new openings are going to be opening up in the next 10 years just for home health care. And then the trickle-down effect comes into play because you're increasing one certain area, so you need to have the infrastructure and the buildings and the capability to do that. So as millions more are needing home health care and specific like end-of-life care, there's going to be more hospitals, more clinics, more equipment that's suited for them. And that's going to mean that we're going to need engineers to design that, and construction management to build that, and electricians and plumbers, and it just trickles down and down and down so that they can build the infrastructure to support this changing world that we have. So not to mention, you take into the fact that the housing shortage that we have, all these baby boomers are going to be staying into their homes. So there's this shortage of houses on the market, and that's going to mean that we're going to have to build more houses, we're going to have to build more apartments, we're going to have to keep developing that as the population keeps increasing year over year. So that's always going to be a play, especially if you look at it now where we've got people that are moving from California. There's a mass exodus, so they're going to other cities. They're moving to Texas, and they're moving to Colorado, and whatever the place might be. So you're going to see an increase in those cities as they develop their own infrastructure to handle all the cars on the freeway and commuting into work and building new businesses and new office spaces and parking structures. So there's going to be a trickle-down effect of that. So the good news is that McKinsey's research actually supports that with sufficient growth, innovation, and investment, there can be enough new job creation to offset the impact of the automation itself. So hindsight, there's going to be enough jobs in the future. It's just going to be based off of, do you have the needed skills that are required for those? Are you going to have the expertise of how the jobs are transitioning away? So your job as its current state might cease to exist, but there's going to be enough jobs, or there should be enough jobs, that you can transition into a different role, a different position, maybe even a different industry, and still have a job within the market. So that might mean that you have to relocate to a new state. You might have to move across the whole country and go from the East Coast to the West Coast, or the West Coast to the East Coast. It'll look differently for every single person. Luckily, we have this data and we can easily see which states have the largest number of people employed. Hands down, that's California. They're packed in there crazy tight. Then you have Florida, New York, and Texas. All of these have a ton of people employed with them. But we know, as we already stated, Californians are doing an exodus to California. They're heading to other states, they're broadening that market, they're opening up jobs in California, and they're increasing the need for new positions and new infrastructure in all the places that they're moving to. So if you watch what's going on in the news and you watch what's going on with basic data, you can really plan this out and have an understanding of where you might want to go or where you might not want to go at all. So it just kind of depends how much you're willing to learn and how adaptable you are. But the good news is there will be jobs out there. You just have to be able to be flexible and know what you do want to do and what you absolutely don't want to do.